Hello, let me adjust this a little bit. I got a funky new stand to hold all of my things. So instead of everything being on the desktop, it has a giant pole that goes up behind the desk, and then it has all these arms. So I was able to get a new thing. I just have to figure out the best angle for all of these things. So here you've got the microphone is a little bit in the way, but I mean it's okay. And then I actually have, you can't see it, but the iPad is right there, so everything can be adjusted, and it's super, super cool. I played with it. I think yesterday was the first day that I narrated with it, but I can still see everything. I can see my whole computer, and I can bring it up closer to me now. So basically everything is now just on vertical stands that are all connected together, and it saves me a lot of desk space. And I can bring everything closer to me so I can read it better, which is great. All right, we are going to do chapter 22 of Phantom of the Opera. Let me get my headphones on. I kind of played, my microphone got bumped out of the way while we were getting everything attached to my desktop because it clamps onto the back of it. And I accidentally moved my mic. So yesterday, all my audio was slightly off because I apparently did not move it quite back where it was supposed to be. So we're hoping that this is where it's supposed to be. But we'll find out. I'm pretty sure I measured the distance, and the distance was right the last time. I just think it wasn't angled correctly. I don't think it was pointed at my mouth, which would make a difference in the sound quality. So it should be, for me, it has to be slightly off to the side and up above so it doesn't catch as many p noises or t noises. It still catches them occasionally if I'm in an action-y scene. But for the most part, it does not pick them up, which is great. All right, and I would prefer, hold on, let me move this just a little bit. I'm messing with we want our, I'm trying to think where I had this yesterday. So I basically pushed all the little arms back into place to get out of the closet. Let me just angle it slightly. In theory, it would be best for my neck to not be having to look weird. So I think hold on. Move this over a little bit. Sorry. First time using something, it takes a little bit of adjusting. Let's move. Why is it not moving out any further? Okay. We're good. You can't see anything in your thing, even though that's right there. It's the back of the iPad, which is what I read on. All right, let's go. Actually, that is angled weird. There we go. Today we'll be continuing The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux. Chapter 22. In the Torture Chamber, the Persian's narrative continued. We were in the middle of a little six-cornered room, the sides of which were covered with mirrors from top to bottom. In the corners we could clearly see the joins and the glasses, the segments intended to turn on their gear. Yes, I recognized them, and I recognized the iron tree in the corner at the bottom of one of those segments. The iron tree with its iron branch for the hanged men. I need to swallow. I seized my companion's arm. The Viscount de Chagny was all a quiver, eager to shout to his betrothed that he was bringing her help. I feared that he would not be able to contain himself. Suddenly we heard a noise on our left. I just figured out what's wrong with this iPad. I have the stand. There we go. Instead of it being, so the stand clamps on either side of the iPad. And so instead of being in the middle of it, I had it clamped closer to the bottom. So the screen was up higher than I had it yesterday. That's what's wrong. The phone I had to clamp that way because of, I just did. Actually, it may not have to be clamped. Whatever. It's fine where it is. Okay. Last thing we said was on our left. It sounded at first like a door opening and shutting in the next room, and then there was a dull moan. I clutched Monsieur de Chagny's arm more firmly still, and then we distinctly heard these words. You must make your choice, the wedding mass or the requiem mass. I recognized the voice of the monster. There was another moan, followed by a long silence. I was persuaded by now that the monster was unaware of our presence in his house, for otherwise he would certainly have managed not to let us hear him. He would only have had to close the little invisible window through which the torture lovers looked down into the torture chamber. Besides, I was certain that if he had known of our presence, the tortures would have begun at once. The important thing was not to let him know, and I dreaded nothing so much as the impulsiveness of the Viscount de Chagny, who wanted to rush through the walls to Christine Daae, whose moans we continued to hear at intervals. "The Requiem Mass is not at all gay," Eric's voice resumed, "whereas the wedding mass, you can take my word for it, is magnificent. You must take a resolution and know your own mind. I can't go on living like this, like a mole in a burrow. Don Juan Triumphant is finished, and now I want to live like everybody else. I want to have a wife like everybody else. And to take her out on Sundays. I have invented a mask that makes me look like anybody. People will not even turn round in the streets. You will be the happiest of women, and we will sing, all by ourselves till we swoon away with delight. You're crying. You are afraid of me, and yet I am not really wicked. Love me, and you shall see. All I wanted was to be loved for myself. If you loved me, I should be as gentle as a lamb, and you could do anything with me that you pleased." Soon the moans that accompanied this sort of love's litany increased and increased. I've never heard anything more despairing. And Monsieur de Chagny and I recognized that this terrible lamentation came from Eric himself. Christine seemed to be standing dumb with horror, without the strength to cry out, while the monster was on his knees before her. 3 times over, Eric fiercely bewailed his fate. "You don't love me! You don't love me! You don't love me!" And then more gently, "Why do you cry? You know it gives me pain to see you cry." A silence. Each silence gave us fresh hope. We said to ourselves, perhaps he's left Christine behind the wall. Get a drink real quick. Oops. So it's nice now. I can actually see my preamp. And my tea still fits on the little countertop. It's just nice. I like it. And for the record, as I had someone complain about the sound quality of my videos, when I'm recording a video, the video is not plugged into anything for better sound quality. It is the phone microphone being used, because I do not own a microphone to plug into my phone, and I'm also not going to buy one in the near future. So if you ever... The complaint was that the sound sounded like it was echoing around the room. You're not hearing the sound that my microphone is picking up. There is no echo in the actual podcast that I'm making right now. But I feel like I need to say that because there was a complaint. I was doing a fun video about like things you don't think about until you become a voice actor. And someone thought that was their opportunity to try to teach me that my audio quality was terrible. Yeah, because it's my phone. Phone microphones are not made for professional stuff. I'm posting on social media and YouTube. Not terribly worried about it. So I'm not sending these out to like professional people. These are not used for samples on my website, the phone recordings. So anyways. Thank you for listening to my talk. And we thought only of the possibility of warning Christine Daae of our presence, unknown to the monster. We were unable to leave the torture chamber now, unless Christine opened the door to us, and it was only on this condition that we could hope to help her, for we did not even know where the door might be. Suddenly the silence in the next room was disturbed by the ringing of an electric bell. There was a bound on the other side of the wall and Eric's voice of thunder. "Somebody ringing! Walk in, please!" A sinister chuckle. "Who has come bothering now? Wait for me here. I'm going to tell the siren to open the door." Steps moved away. A door closed. I had no time to think of the fresh horror that was preparing. I forgot that the monster was only going out perhaps to perpetrate a fresh crime. I understood but one thing. Christine was alone behind the wall. The Viscount de Chagny was already calling to her. The Viscount de Chagny was already calling to her, "Christine! Christine!" as we could hear what was said in the next room. There was no reason why my companion should not be heard in his turn. Nevertheless, the Viscount had to repeat his cry time after time. At last a faint voice reached us. "I'm dreaming," it said. "Christine! Christine, it is I, Raoul!" A silence. "But answer me, Christine! In heaven's name, if you are alone, answer me!" Then Christine's voice whispered Raoul's name. Yes, it is I. It is not a dream. Christine, trust me. We are here to save you. But be prudent. When you hear the monster, warn us." Then Christine gave way to fear. She trembled lest Eric should discover where Raoul was hidden. She told us in a few hurried words that Eric had gone quite mad with love, and that he had decided to kill everybody and himself with everybody, if she did not consent to become his wife. He had given her till 11 o'clock the next evening for reflection. It was the last respite. Respite? It was the last respite. She must choose, as he said, between the wedding mass and the requiem. And Eric had then uttered a phrase which Christine did not quite understand. "Yes or no. If your answer is no, everybody will be dead and buried." But I understood the sentence perfectly, for it corresponded in a terrible manner with my own dreadful thought. "Can you tell us where Eric is?" I asked. She supplied that he must have left the house. "Could you make sure?" "No, I am fastened. I cannot stir a limb." When we heard this, Monsieur de Chagny and I gave a yell of fury. Our safety, the safety of all three of us, depended on the girl's liberty of movement. "But where are you?" asked Christine. "There are only 2 doors in my room. The Louis Philippe room of which I told you, Raoul. A door through which Eric comes and goes, and another which he has never opened before me, and which he has forbidden me ever to go through, because he says it is the most dangerous of the doors, the door of the torture chamber." "Christine, that is where we are." "You are in the torture chamber?" "Yes, but we cannot see the door." "Oh, if I could only drag myself so far, I would knock at the door, and that would tell you where it is." "Is it a door with a lock to it?" I asked. "Yes, with a lock." "Mademoiselle," I said, "it is absolutely necessary that you should open that door to us." "But how?" asked the poor girl tearfully. We heard her straining, trying to free herself from the bonds that held her. "I know where the key is," she said, in a voice that seemed exhausted by the effort she had made. "But I'm fastened so tight. Oh, the wretch!" And she gave a sob. "Where's the key?" I asked, signing to Monsieur de Chagny not to speak, and to leave the business to me, for we had not a moment to lose. "In the next room, near the organ, with another little bronze key, which he also forbade me to touch. They are both in a little leather bag, which he calls the bag of life and death. Raoul! Raoul, fly! Everything is mysterious and terrible here, and Eric will soon have gone quite mad, and you are in the torture chamber. Go back by the way you came. There must be a reason why the room is called by that name." "Christine," said the young man, "we will go from here together or die together." "We must keep cool," I whispered. "Why is he fastened? Why has he fastened you, mademoiselle? You can't escape from his house, and he knows it." "I tried to commit suicide. The monster went out last night after carrying me here fainting and half chloroformed. He was going to his banker, so he said. When he returned, he found me with my face covered with blood. I had tried to kill myself by striking my forehead against the walls." "Christine," groaned Raoul, and he began to sob. "Then he bound me. I'm not allowed to die until 11 o'clock tomorrow evening." "Mademoiselle," I declared, "the monster bound you, and he shall unbind you. You have only to play the necessary part. Remember that he loves you." "Alas," we heard, "am I likely to forget it?" "Remember it and smile to him. Entreat him. Tell him that your bonds hurt you." But Christine Daae said, "Hush! I hear something in the wall on the lake. It is he. Go away! Go away! Go away!" "We could not go away even if we wanted to," I said, as impressively as I could. "We cannot leave this, and we're in the torture chamber." "Hush!" whispered Christine again. Heavy steps sounded slowly behind the wall, then stopped and made the floor creak once more. Next came a tremendous sigh, followed by a cry of horror from Christine, and we heard Eric's voice. "I beg your pardon for letting you see a face like this. What a state I am in, am I not? It's the other one's fault. Why did he ring? Do I ask people who passed to tell me the time? He will never ask anybody the time again. It is the siren's fault." Another sigh, deeper, more tremendous still, came from the abysmal depths of a soul. "Why do you cry? Ow. Why did you cry out, Christine?" "Because I'm in pain, Eric." "I thought I had frightened you." "Eric, unloose my bonds. Am I not your prisoner?" "You will try to kill yourself again." "You've given me till 11 o'clock tomorrow evening, Eric." The footsteps dragged along the floor again. "After all, as we are to die together, am I just as eager as you? Yes, I've had enough of this life, you know." Wait. Oh, hold on. No, this is all him. "After all, as we are to die together, and I'm just as eager as you. Yes, I've had enough of this life, you know." "Wait, don't move, I will release you. You have only one word to say. No, and it will at once be over with everybody." "You are right. You're right. Why wait till 11 o'clock tomorrow evening? True, it would have been grander, finer, but that is childish nonsense. We should only think of ourselves in this life, of our own death. The rest doesn't matter. You're looking at me because I'm all wet? Oh, my dear, it's raining cats and dogs outside. Apart from that, Christine, I think I am subject to hallucinations. You know the man who rang at the siren's door just now? Go and look if he's ringing at the bottom of the lake well. He was rather like... There, turn round. Are you glad? You're free now. Oh, my poor Christine, look at your wrists. Tell me, have I hurt them? That alone deserves death. Talking of death, I must sing his requiem." Hearing these terrible remarks, I received an awful presentiment. I, too, had once rung at the monster's door, and without knowing it, must have set some warning current in motion. And I remembered the two arms that had emerged from the inky waters. What poor wretch had strayed to that shore this time? Who was the other one? The one whose requiem we now heard sung? Eric sang like the god of thunder, sang a dies irae that enveloped us as in a storm. The elements seemed to rage around us. Suddenly the organ and the voice ceased so suddenly that Monsieur de Chagny sprang back, on the other side of the wall with emotion. And the voice, changed and transformed, distinctly grated out these metallic syllables. "What have you done with my bag?" Thank you for joining Bite at a Time Books today. Thank you for joining Bite at a Time Books today, while we read a bite of one of your favorite classics. Again, my name is Bree Carlisle, and I hope you come back tomorrow for the next bite of The Phantom of the Opera. So we're doing Phantom, and then I have 5 days where we're going to do some Grimm's fairy tales. And then start the Christmas book. I've never read this particular, well, quite a few of these I've never read the books for. All right, thanks, guys.